Hello and welcome to DMAC's 20 Business Commandments. As you'll know already, I'm starting to run a few videos on my new YouTube channel, and obviously you'll see the subscribe button on the screen, so I'd appreciate your support if you want to subscribe to be alerted about when I put up new videos and some of the current videos that I'll put on my YouTube channel. This week I wanted to discuss the 20 business commandments that I've lived and died by since being in business at 22, 23 when I went out on my own and opened my own business. But lots of these commandments I also took into my work life, whether I was working for other people or working for myself. And I just want to put out there for anyone who's watching, I'm not trying to teach you how to suck eggs. I'm not trying to tell you how to live your life per se, so to speak. The whole idea of doing these videos is I want to share a little bit of my experiences. I want to share a few of the things that I've done in life and how I've handled situations. And whatever you take from that is up to you, whoever watches the videos. You could be sitting at home unemployed, you could be sitting in your office working for somebody, or you could be at the boardroom table in your own business, planning expansion, planning new ideas for your own business. So it doesn't matter who you are. I'm not asking you to follow or do what I say or what I do. I'm just sharing my own ideas and thoughts. I know in the modern world we live in 2019 and going forward, the outrage mob come out and always say, well, you're always telling us what to do and blah. That's not what this is about. So get what you want from these videos. I have a little bit of spare time on my hands, and I'll be truthfully honest, my children have actually said to me to do some YouTube videos like this, and if it's one way for them to listen to me finally, then I'm definitely going to keep doing these videos. So today we're going to talk about my 20 commandments. I used to call them Darragh's commandments when I ran a big real estate company, and I'd obviously thousands of employees and a lot of sales and marketing people and everything else. I used to, as part of the training manual, write down my business commandments, the commandments I've lived and died by since day one. And I'm going to share some of those 20 commandments with you today. I'm not sure I'll get through all of them in this video. If I don't, I'll do another video. I don't want to bore people to tears either, so I don't want it to be like a 2-hour movie where people only watch 5 minutes. If you're going to watch, I'd like you to watch to the end. So these are just some of the things I've lived and died by, no matter what I've done. Whether I've worked for someone, whether I've worked for myself, whether I've been retired, these will never change. And I'm not prejudging anybody out there who does things differently from me. We all do our own things. We all do things differently. We're not all made the same. I respect everyone's right to their own thought and their own way of doing things. But if you're sitting there and things aren't working out for you, and you're not in a position you'd like to be, and you're not comfortable financially, or you're not succeeding at work, or you're not getting the job you want, or you're not building your business to the next level, maybe a few of these tips might ring true. Maybe some of them you'll think about, some of them think, well, that's old-fashioned, and that's not the way it is nowadays, and I've got my own way of doing it. I used to always say, particularly to my sales staff, the perfect sales guy, I'd say to them, I'd do a training exercise, and I'd say, draw me a picture of a perfect sales guy. And I'd say, obviously, look, you want to draw a picture of me. But no, please draw me a picture. And obviously, there'd be 20 people in the room. None of them would draw the picture that I would draw. The picture, for me, a perfect salesperson is basically a small head, a mouth, 2 eyes and nose, and 2 massive ears. Because what's really important in sales sometimes is listening. Listening to your client, listening to those around you, listening to your boss. So whether you listen to this is down to you. It's up to you. I'd love some feedback. I'd love some comments. I'd like people's thoughts. I've put out there that I'm open to people giving me their own ideas, asking questions, throwing things at me. The other day, as an example, I put out there on all social media forums about I've got money to invest in businesses. If somebody's got the next great idea, if there's the next Steve Jobs out there in his garage and needs a bit of financial backing, hit me up. Send me an email, put me a proposal together, give me the ins and outs. In other videos, I'm going to go through some of the ideas that have been sent to me, some of the things I look at to invest in, and why I haven't picked up on any of the ones sent to me so far. And I think I've been sent over 250 ideas in the last few days, and it's down to about 3 that I think, would I invest in them or not? So more on that later. So let's get back to DMAC's 20 business commandments, because you need a title of some sorts, particularly if you want the video to garner attention on YouTube and social media forums. Number 1 for me, and it's a really, I've lived and died by this my whole life. I'm trying to instill it in my kids and everyone around me. Punctuality. Punctuality to me is massive. I mean massive. In my life, I've never been late to a job interview. I've never been late to a business meeting. I've never been late to pick up a client. For me, it's everything. And I still live my life by that. You'll find if I go to a football match for my football club, I'm there an hour and a half early. I leave so early to avoid traffic and pitfalls. If I have a business meeting, you can ask anybody that's worked with me, worked for me, I'm never late to a business meeting. For me, there is no excuse to be late to anything in your life. You need to be better organized. You need to be on time, because I judge people. I've had job interviews where people have come in for jobs with me and they've shown up 5 minutes late. And I've told my executive assistant outside they don't get the interview. I'm sorry, that's the way it is. If a job meant that much to you, you'd be there on time. It's the same if you want to if you're getting married, you're going to be there on time. If you've got to pay a bill, you want to do it on time. I live my life by punctuality, and I've tried to instill that into my children, the people who've worked. That's punctuality. That's a really important one for me. It's probably number one on my list. No excuse ever to be late for a meeting. No excuse to be late for a job interview. I don't care how far away you live, you leave early. So time's something really important in life. Don't waste other people's time. Don't waste your own time. That's a big thing for me. Number two, work ethic. Massive thing. You're going to hear that said a lot. Work ethic to me is so important among my commandments. And I'll give you an example. One of my kids, my son, once said to me, we were on the way to the cinema, and he said, how did you make loads of money? And because kids nowadays, their idea of how to find out how you make loads of money is to Google, how do I become a millionaire? I actually found that in my 11-year-old search history once. So what I said to my son was, it wasn't always about, for me, being the smartest guy in the room. It was always about making sure I worked harder than everyone else in the room. Yes, I can sell. Yes, I can market. Yes, I've got personality. Yes, I've learned a lot of things through sales and marketing over the years. But the one thing I've had since day one, particularly when I went to work for myself, was work ethic. I hear this all the time about days off and work hours, and I think France, you can work, it's 25 hours a week is the work hour ethic over there and whatever else. For me, when I was particularly starting out in my late teens, my early 20s, and then starting my own business, 7 days a week. When I built my business into a big success and I made my first million and I made millions afterwards and I kept going, it was all based on tremendous work ethic. I had an appetite for work like you wouldn't believe. For me, Saturdays and Sundays didn't exist as days off. I used to probably travel 40 out of 52 weeks every year to trade fairs and property exhibitions, come back from traveling on a Monday, take clients through to Thursday, gone again on Friday, whether it be London, Dublin, somewhere else in Europe, even as far as Asia. So work ethic's massively important. And I found when I went into sales, whether it was at the start in timeshare or in real estate, I looked at the people around me. The most successful people were the hardest workers. The ones who weren't doing as well were the ones who wanted to clock out early, come in a little bit later, and never wanted to volunteer for a weekend shift in a real estate office. So I get people need downtime. I get people need time off. And that's for me why over the years, what I've always done really, really well was I would take big holidays. In the summer, I'd go away for 2-3 weeks at a time, and I would have massive holidays. I'd spend a fortune on them. I would go and absolutely zombify out on holiday. I'd read magazines, I'd watch movies, I'd have a few drinks, enjoy time with my family. I'd still work, but I would take a vacation. Saturdays and Sundays, I never worried about, am I going to have Saturday off? Am I going to have Sunday off? If you want to be the richest guy in the room, if your motivation is to make money, if your motivation is to be the best employee, if your motivation is to build a business, you have to work harder than everybody else. So right now, if you're sat at home on your ass and you're looking for quick answers and you're looking for shortcuts, they don't exist. You're going to have to work damn hard. You're going to have to get off your ass and you're going to have to go out there and you're going to have to apply serious work ethic. You never want to hear when you're a boss, an employee basically say, I can't do that. I've got something on tonight. I've got something on Saturday or Sunday. I don't have the time. You want dedication. You want to see the people who are the most dedicated. They're the people you look at when you go to make promotions. And I know that's unfair sometimes, and everyone deserves a life and a life after work and work to live, live to work, all that crap that you hear all of the time. But I'm being really honest and truthful with you. When I was promoting people, I always looked at the people who would put it all on the line, who would work to the last bone, because they're the people who are hungry. So work ethic for me, massively, massively important. And all through my 20s and before I was in a fortunate position where I could retire in my early 30s, you wouldn't find a guy like me who didn't work harder than me. You just wouldn't find another person like that. And as an example to my staff and the people who worked around me, they would see the hours and the travel and the days I would put in non-stop. So work ethic, massively important. So each to their own. You could be the person who wants a job that's 5 days a week, 4 days a week, as some socialists nowadays like to talk about, that's on you. But all I'm saying is you're not going to have all the best things in life without a serious work ethic to back it all up. And making money and being successful and applying yourself, work ethic comes into it every day of the week. Same in sports, I guess. And it's you look at Olympic athletes and the sacrifices they've made and the hours they've put in, and you listen to the sound bites of people like Michael Phelps, Tiger Woods in golf. Those people, forget about what you see on TV when it came to competition time. The hours of practice they put in, the sacrifices they made. There's a reason they're the GOATs. Same with a Roger Federer. It's no different in business. It's no different in work. You have to have a serious work ethic, and you have to have an appetite for it as well. Yes, we all want to enjoy what we do, but sometimes you just got to put your head down, put the afterburners on, and just work, work, work. That's key for me. So, work ethic. Number 3 on my list, and it's a big one for me, and it might be slightly contradictory when you look at me and everything else, but appearance, preparation, dress sense, they're very important for me. I might not have shaved today, I might look a tad bit scruffy in this video, but I've earned the right at 43 where I don't have to have a suit and tie on today. I don't have to shave every day. These are the rights I've earned from spending most of my 20s, most of my 30s wearing a suit and tie 7 days a week, shaving 7 days a week. Luckily, I've got skin as soft as a baby's ass, as they say out there, because my skin, I would have to shave every day and use creams and lotions and everything else. Otherwise, you get obviously rashes and pimples and everything else. But it's one of the things you always go when you're older and you're in a position where you don't have to anymore. It's like, oh, I don't have to shave today. I don't have to clean up as much as everyone else. People always criticize me at football games. Why don't you wear a tie? Why are you always having issues at away games with other clubs who want you to wear a suit and tie? Because I spent 20 years in a suit and tie. When I get to the point where I can buy a football club and I want to go and watch my club play a game on a Saturday, I don't want to go back to wearing a suit and tie. Yes, I'll still wear a suit, but I don't want to put a tie on. But in my 20s and my 30s, trust me, there was nobody who looked better than me presentation-wise. All right? My hair was in the right place. All right? I shaved every day. I wore a suit and tie. In the early days, it was a $90 suit from a supermarket. They're the only suits that would fit me back then. That's all I could afford. As I made some money, they turned into nicer suits. I could get some Boss suits off the rack. And then Savile Row appeared and I could have suits made for me. And that's great. And that's all based on basically working hard. I mean, I'm in a position to go out and buy those things. But the reality is, if I went to a job interview, if I started a new job, I work for myself, I looked $1 million. And I always think when you dress up well and you present yourself well, it makes you feel better. It makes you do better things in the job and the tasks you have at hand. So appearance is really, really important. And I'm going to be really honest with you. You do get prejudged on appearance. And I've prejudged people before on appearance. If I go to buy a house and somebody shows up with a nose ring on, my wife's going to laugh because she had one of them when I first met her, or tattoos all over the place, I'm prejudging straight away. That's who I am. Now, I'm not saying everyone's going to be like that with you out there, but there are people who are going to prejudge. So I'll give you one example where a guy, I'd contacted a realtor when we first came to America 13 years ago. Myself and my wife were looking to buy a house and contacted a guy over the phone. There was a nice house in a golf and country club I liked the look of. It was a $4.5 million home. He gave us the address to meet him there. We pulled up outside the house and we're waiting. First thing is first, he's 3 minutes late. Big no-no for me, as I've just covered. Second thing for me, he gets out of the car. He's wearing basically a vest and a pair of sports shorts and a pair of runners. I'm about to spend $4.5 million and the guy couldn't be arsed to get dressed properly. I'm judging him straight away. And for me, you got to dress properly when you're going to show somebody a house, or you're trying to sell somebody something, or you're trying to do something at work. You've got to look the part. I'm sorry. I know nowadays with millennials and snowflakes and everything else, it's like, well, we can wear what we want. With tech businesses, they these places are like a creche where they can wear t-shirts, shorts, whatever. In my world of business, and I've been brought up this way by my dad was in a suit and tie night and day. And that was my role model. And that's something when I was in my early 20s, I enjoyed putting on my first suit and tie. I enjoyed looking the business, looking professional. I'd look in the mirror every morning before I go out and take a client in real estate. And I'd just go, I sell with zest for I'm the best. I'm slim, healthy, successful and wealthy. And I look the business. And you always say that. You got to walk the walk and talk the talk. And I think it's really important to exude confidence that you dress up and you make an effort for your clients, for your work colleagues, and the environment you're in. So that guy that day, I didn't buy that house off him because I was disgusted what he looked like. I let my wife go see the house. I stayed in the car. He probably lost $140,000. So just me prejudging him cost him over $140,000 in lost commission. Would it have hurt him to actually dress up appropriate, even if not in a suit and tie, if he was wearing chinos and a golf shirt and just looked the business like he cared about my business? He didn't give a shit, and he lost out because of that. But that's the way some people are in the world. Again, I'm not teaching you to suck eggs. This is on me. These are the things that I do. When I was taking clients, when I ran a big business, when I was in meetings, I am immaculate. I would suit and tie, I would have cufflinks on, I would have tie pins on, I would be shaved. For me, there is no excuse not to be well presented. There's no excuse that your appearance has to be scruffy. My real estate company, obviously, were called Sharp because what stood us out from every other real estate company in an exhibition room or when my guys went out and took clients was my guys were in suit and ties. Some stage we got some calls and complaints that we looked like the mafia, but it didn't matter. We had an identity. We like to dress up for our clients, and we also like to dress up for ourselves. So take some pride in your appearance. Make sure that when you go out for a job interview or to do the job you already have or to run your own business, you look the business. There's no harm in that. And I think we feel better about ourselves when we can go out and put some nice gear on and whatever else. So for me, that's a big one. Next one I'll talk about is manners, work ethic. Manners and work ethic. You know, I used to always get told manners make the man and it's make the woman. And it's correct. Manners are free. And I say it to my kids all the time. It's amazing the amount of people who don't say please or thank you. And manners go a long way, particularly with client relationships and treating your clients with respect, having manners. You know, even being old-fashioned and opening doors for clients or opening, whether it's female or male or whatever else, letting them go first, making sure you listen to them. Same when you work. When you work for someone or you work for yourself, manners. There's nothing wrong with having manners. And there's not enough people nowadays have manners when it comes to a sales environment or marketing environment. Hey, listen, we all want to close a deal. We all want to get on the phone and knock down some leads and do some deals and make some money. But at the same time, have some manners about how you do it. Etiquette. Etiquette's a big thing for me. And you wouldn't believe the amount of people I'd see in sales. I would always be the watcher from afar. I'd watch how other people deal with clients at public exhibitions and when they're out with clients on development sites or showing them houses. The amount of real estate agents that would basically open a house up and go straight in ahead of the client instead of letting the client go in first. Little things like they'd be driving in the car and you could see the tone and the mood and the body language from the clients. They weren't getting on with their representative. And that's really important, I think, you know, some basic human decency. When I talk about etiquette, I talk about making sure your phone's on 24/7. If you work in any environment, particularly if you're out in life and you're trying to build a successful life for yourself, have your phone on 24/7. If you're with a client, don't take the call. Have your phone obviously go to voicemail, but make sure in breaks that you check in and you return calls. Nothing worse than not getting a phone call returned. It's like ignorant for me. People who leave it for a day or 2 days or 3 days, there's no excuse for that. If you're hustling and you're trying to do business and you're trying to sell something or market a product, you make sure that you follow up with phone calls and you return phone calls. Same with your clients that you've done business with already. The amount of people that don't return phone calls, don't ring their clients, don't check in with them, it's staggering. It's one of the things that separated me from everyone else in real estate. I had such a good relationship with my clients. I would speak to them probably once every 10 days. I would check in with my clients. Even if I had 100 clients, it would be 100 phone calls on a Monday and Tuesday just to say, hey, Nick, Joanne, how are you? How's the family? Everything okay? I know everything's all right with the property. Was there anything I can do for you? You never know. Nick and Joanne might turn around and say on the telephone, funny enough, we were just speaking to our neighbours. We've recommended you. Here's their phone number. Give them a ring. Etiquette's massive. Drives me mad in this email world we live in, and don't even get me started on how sales and marketing people now just do emails instead of actually picking the telephone up old school, old fashioned wise. But I get emails all the time. There isn't a person, particularly in my work atmosphere, who works for me or my work environment, in my work world that I have relationships with. Someone emails me, they get a response. Even if it's a big email I need to respond to and I don't have the time, you get a holdover response going, hey bud, how are you? I'll get back to you when I have time. Thank you. It's an acknowledgement. Nothing drives me more mad than emailing with people who don't respond and then come back to you days or weeks later. I'll give you an example. Somebody pitched me an idea to invest in their business. They wanted 200 grand out of me. They sent me all the details. What usually happens then is I'll follow up with a few questions based on that email and their business and things in general. I'll bullet point it. It'll be like 7-8 points. These are the things I want. If everything checks out and you come back with the right answers, the next thing is we'll meet each other when I get to the UK And from that then, I might invest the 200,000 in your business. So they've come to me asking for money about their business to help them. I go back to them, I respond, I don't hear anything. I mean nothing. So you want something from me, I respond, you don't even have the correct etiquette to respond to me again. That's wrong. That's somebody who's never going to be successful. That's somebody who's never going to build a successful business unless they're lucky, or unless they walk out and buy a lottery ticket. So big thing for me, manners, work ethic. Trust. Trust is massive. This is another one of my commandments. That's number 5, I think, on my list. And when I talk about trust is, if you work for people, they have to be able to trust you. If you employ people, your employees have to be able to trust you as well. Trust and loyalty are massive in business. When it comes to forging client relationships, doing the right things for your clients so they trust you, that you're doing the right things, and trusting you that they'll do business with you in the future. The one thing that got me ahead of a lot of other people in real estate was very, very simple. I had a massive referral rate. For every 3 of my clients, I probably got 1 deal out of every 3 from a referred friend or family. That's massive. I used to watch people in real estate do deals, people who work for me, people in other companies. They would do a sale, they would get paid, because getting paid is obviously very important when you do a sale, and they'd never speak to their client for a long period of time, unless the client rang them, unless the client wanted something. So the client didn't trust that person to pass any business on. If you have trust with your client will go to the ends of the earth for you. They will talk good things about your company. They will give you good recommendations. It will lead to more money. Same if you work for somebody. They have to be able to trust that if they give you a task or a job to do, you're going to do it to the fullest ability. And that work ethic thing we spoke about earlier, you're going to put in as much work as you can. You're going to show your bosses you're the person that they can either in the future trust with more business, promote you, make you a partner. Anything's possible. Trust is massively important. Same when you run your business. The people who work for you have to trust that you're going to pay them on time. They have to trust that you're building the business, you're doing the right things, and that it serves their interests as well as your own. That's how a good successful business is operated. So with my sales guys, if I had trust with my guys and they needed help and they came to me and maybe they were waiting 2 months for a commission, they needed a loan. If I trusted them, I would give them a loan. If I didn't trust them, and that does happen in businesses, I wouldn't give them a loan. So trust is a massive, massive thing. It's key. It's key in life. It's not just business. It's not just work. It could be relationships. It could be anything else. Massive part of my commandments, trust. Next one I talk about is a big one for me, and people don't always understand this, is product knowledge. It's amazing the amount of people that will go into a new job and they'll do it half-arsed. You'll start a new job and they could be selling Hoovers, they could be selling houses, and you'll go in and you'll do the training and then you think you've made it and you're ready to take a client and you're ready to go out there, you're going to pound the phone, you're going to go door to door, you're going to meet a client at an airport. And what you haven't done is you haven't covered off the product knowledge side of this scenario. For me, it's the be all and end all in sales, marketing, is knowing that whatever your product is, that you know it better than everyone else. You know the full A to Z on it. You know everything about it. When I was selling real estate, the new development boom had started. And there was something like 120 new developments spread along probably 100 kilometers at the Costa del Sol. And one of the first tasks I had when I started, it was with Ocean Estates, and I was just a sales rep. I was given a list. And 3 other people who'd started with me were also given the same list. And that list basically was of the 100 new developments that were on the coast. And we were told to go and visit every single one of them. I'm not going to lie to you. At first I looked at it and it was quite daunting. And I was like, well, surely maybe there's a shortcut. I was 20, 21. So I'm thinking the shortcuts here I can take and which are the most popular and maybe I can discount. But an older sales rep said to me, do yourself a favor, get your product knowledge down pat so that you know and you have answers for every client. And he was right. I spent 5 days going and visiting all of those 100 products, developments, complexes, studied the brochure material. I knew it inside out. And where that served me really well was if I was at a property exhibition and a client walked onto the stand and said, look, I've been looking to buy in Marbella for a year and I've been down 3 times and I've seen stuff and blah, blah. That client turned around and said to me, look, I was looking at Santa Maria, or I was looking at Los Golondrinos in Mijas, or I was looking at, somewhere else in Puerto Banús, and I didn't know what they were talking about, or I couldn't give them a comparative and say to them, well, look, I know you were looking at those, but here's a new development from La Reserva de Marbella. And let me tell you why, in comparison to Santa Maria de Golf, this is better. That's product knowledge. If I stand there like a dummy and I try and play along and I don't actually know where those places are, I'm going to get found out. The client's going to have no trust in me whatsoever. By exuding confidence and knowing the product and being able to talk about the different options, being able to compare them and giving them my advice, my expert advice, because this is my field, the client feels confident in me, they trust me, they'll sit down with me, they'll spend time. That's really, really important. And not enough salespeople or marketing people take enough time to study the product they're selling or marketing. So product knowledge is the be all and end all to anything. You don't get that right, quit your job. You've no interest in getting it right, you're taking shortcuts. All right. You want to win, you want to do well, you want to sell, you want to market, get your product knowledge down. All right. Go above and beyond the call of duty and find out everything about that product. Find out everything about the company you work for. Because again, when you're talking to clients, whether it's in person or on the telephone, company credibility is really important. And I had that down when I worked for Ocean Estates or I worked for myself. I would speak about my company, I would give them some history on it, I'd give them some history on me, and then we'd obviously get to the product. They're all key things when it comes to selling or marketing. So don't forget that. Product knowledge, don't take shortcuts. Another one for me would be listen to your manager. And this is really important because a lot of people start a job, and whether they like the people they work for or they don't like them, you have to respect them. They're in a position for a reason. It doesn't matter if it's because you get into a job and if you don't like your boss, then you start coming up with gossip and different comments about how they got the job and they're not qualified for the job. Listen, they got the job. They're your boss. So they're going to have to steer you in the right direction when you start a job. They're going to have to give you all the information. They're going to have to do training. You're going to have to invest and buy into it. It mightn't work out. You might have to move on, but you're going to have to give them the benefit of the doubt. They're your manager for a reason. The people who own the company, put them in charge. Okay? I'm not saying you can't disagree with them ever, but you can do it in the right way. You can be respectful the way you express your opinion on that, but don't be a pain in the arse. Don't be somebody that's always basically, I call it a red flag, whose name comes up constantly in owners' meetings when you meet with your managers and they go, well, that person's moaning about this and this person was late. And it's the same name, that's a red flag. It's not right. You're gone. So again, trust your manager. Always ask. Keep asking questions. The people, particularly when you start a new job, make sure that you're like a sponge. Listen and take in everything and don't stop asking questions. You can always improve. There's always room for improvement no matter what you do. All right. Same when you work for yourself. If you promote people and you put people into a position of authority and you make them managers or supervisors or whatever else, you have to be able to trust that they can do the job you've asked them to do. Interference can be a problem. And too many people basically really, really struggle with delegating. When I was building a business and I went from employing 10 people to employing 100 people in a couple of months, I found it really difficult letting go and delegating the tasks and all the stuff that I used to do myself when I was building the business. So eventually I had to breathe and go, you know what? I've put those 10 managers in place because A, I saw something in them to promote them. B, they've worked for me for a period of time. C, I trust them. So, and I have to also trust that they've taken from me all the things necessary to make this work. So I have to make sure I trust them in the ability to recruit, to hire, to train, and ultimately to perform. So that's really, really important. Trust. That's a massive one for me. Okay. And listening to your manager. Because if you don't listen to the people around you, if you don't listen to the people who work for you, if you don't have an open mind to people who work for you, you're going to fail. It's doomed for failure. So big one for me. Next, I'm going to talk about perfect the pitch, then repeat. All right. This is something that's really important. I'm going to give you an example. When I worked in timeshare is a horrible world. I'm not going to lie to you. I was 20 when I worked in timeshare and I was surrounded by veterans, people who'd worked all over Europe, whether it be Tenerife, Lanzarote, Mallorca. This was in Marbella. And this was like my first job in sales. And I went into a really, really rough environment where you had real veterans and you had newbies. And the veterans didn't talk to the newbies because they didn't want to waste time and energy on them because it was 1 in 10 people survived in that sales environment. 10 would start, 1 would stay. And I remember starting in my class that week, there was 10 of us. And within 9 days, it was down to 2 of us. And I was one of the 2, luckily enough. And I was very fortunate in that way. But I always remember watching and trying to pick from the veteran salespeople what they did, what was their pitch. None of them wanted to give me the time of day. And we'd gone through the training. And we were told that within the first week, we needed to have a deal. And on the Friday of my first week, I blanked on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. A lot of people had either resigned or fired because it was a really, really tough environment. By the Friday, I got lucky. I got a nice client. The client ended up buying. It was like a 3-hour presentation. I remember I thought I'd made it. I was ringing the bell, I was popping champagne, I was very arrogant. And obviously the veterans in the corner, there was quite a group of them basically, gave me that filthy look like, who does that young upstart think they are? Particularly also, I was one of the youngest people ever working in timeshare. Usually you have to be over the age of 25. But I remember I got lucky. One of the people that had worked there quite a few years took a shining to me, and he liked my personality. And I remember he sat with me over a coffee at a break time, and he sat down and he said, "You pitch, show me your pitch." And I was kind of like, "What do you mean pitch?" We learned about, you got to pitch the client, you got to come up with a certain strategy when you're selling. And he said, "Yeah, but what's the pitch you've been using all week with your client?" I said, "Well, it depended on the client." It was it. And he goes, no, hold on. Stop right there. It doesn't depend on the client. If you know your product, you know the company credibility, you know the tour, your pitch should be pretty much the same every single time. You find a pitch that works, you stick to the pitch. Yes, you can navigate around it. Yes, you can apply it to your client in a different way, but the spine of the pitch stays the same. And when I say perfect the pitch, if you're selling a car, if you're selling a house, if you're selling timeshare, your pitch needs to be, particularly if it works for you and you find it works for you, you have to repeat and be successful with that pitch over and over. And this guy was right. I'd come up with a pitch and I took a bit of his pitch, the way it started, the middle, the end. And I remember I used this pitch over and I ended up with a closing percentage in timeshare at the time of 43%. The average closing percentage was 18% and I was closing nearly 43%. The average sales pitch time was 3.5 hours for a client. My average selling time was 1 hour and 15 minutes. So I'm not trying to, brag, push myself. Okay, I was very good at what I did. I was a very good closer. And I worked for one of the most legitimate timeshare companies at the time. The product was very good. But once I got my pitch down, once I knew what I was doing, I knew every week when I had 10 clients from Monday through to Saturday or whatever the work hours were, that I was going to be getting 4 to 5 sales. That just give me 10 clients, you're going to get 4 or 5 deals. All right, give me 100 clients in a period of time, you're going to get 40 plus deals. Once I perfected the pitch and I got my closing percentage down, I knew exactly how many deals I was going to do. I knew my average amount commission per deal. I could work out the next 12 months how much money I could make. So perfecting the pitch is important. It was the same in real estate. I came up with a pitch for how our marketing team sold the idea of overseas homes and to get people on planes to come out and view them. And then I gave my sales team my pitch from day one when I started selling real estate of how I took a client from an airport for the next 3 days on an inspection trip to teach them how to sell the product. I will go into that in other videos, but this is just one of my commandments. Perfect the pitch, repeat. Repeat is so important. Repetition is the key to all successful sales. All right, you must always repeat all the good things you do, particularly if it works successfully for you. And the other way is to get it across to a client. If you want the client to remember things, you have to say the same things sometimes 5, 6, 7, 8 times. So there's some important ones for you. The next one I'm going to go into is treat every file and lead the same. And this is critical. This is something you really, really need to pay attention to, because if you don't, I can't help you. And I would say this too, and I've had so much experience with this. When I started in timeshare and I started in real estate, the biggest criminality, the biggest mistake everyone would make, and it's a criminal mistake to make, is that they would prejudge files, prejudge leads. When you work in sales and you come into a successful sales company or a marketing company, you find the people who are doing well get served the best leads, the hottest leads, the newest leads. They get this, whether it's a real estate client, whether it's a lead over the telephone who's inquired and wants to know more information about buying a property. The closers, the shit hot closers, the ones who are doing really well, always get the best leads. The newbies get dealt the stale leads, the stale clients, maybe the not so hot clients that are coming out. And what I mean by that is that, let's say you work in a telemarketing operation. The top closers get 100 leads a day. By the end of the week, they'll have maybe designated that 25, 30 of those 100 leads are workable and can end up being converted. The other 75 have been dismissed. They go into what sometimes is called a back burner batch. So clients who've inquired, but they're not really interested. Clients who've inquired, they got no intention of ever buying, and clients who've inquired who don't actually have the money to buy. So those back burner leads often enough, get given to the newbies to come in, to practice on and to work on and see if you can breathe life back into them. Same in real estate. I worked for Ocean Estates. You had your top 10 closers and then you had your newbies. The top 10 got those, they would star grade the clients. You would have basically from 1 to 3 star, 3 star being the best, 1 star, not so good. The marketing staff would star grade those files. And I basically started off with 1 star files. So that would be a client who wasn't deemed a buyer straight away. Maybe the money wasn't in place. Maybe they didn't have their partner with them, so they couldn't make the decision. All those things going against you. A lot of people who start in those jobs will moan, I'm not getting the right leads, the client's a tire kicker, the client doesn't have any money. Shut your mouth. Stop moaning. Stop moaning to your manager. Stop moaning to the people around you. Stop being negative. Creates a negative environment, and guess what? Eventually your negativity and your bullshit's going to get back to your boss. It's then going to get back to the owner. They're going to know that you're just basically negative about everything. And then you're going to get a red flag against your name. My advice, if you're starting in sales, if you're starting in marketing and you're already in it, is button up. Do your talking with the client. Don't prejudge a file. You're going to get clients who won't buy. You're going to get clients you can't sell over the telephone, because not all of them have them. Forget all those sales videos and all that shit that every client's a buyer, and there are going to be some clients that you just can't get over the line. But I tell you what you will find. In those batches of clients that have been prejudged and kicked to the curb, you'll find business. You'll find business to be done now, and you'll find business to be done down the road. Where instead of discarding the client, you keep the client, you work the client. When the client's ready, you'll pounce, you'll do the business, and you'll do more business than anyone else. And I took a few clients in the early days when I first started selling real estate, and I'm not going to lie, there were clients who had never any intention of buying. But I remember one of them, my first 3 clients, one of them again wasn't in a position to buy, but I did such a good job and put a good impression on the client, and they felt bad that they couldn't buy, and they'd come out under the illusion they could, but they couldn't. They recommended their brother-in-law to me, and the brother-in-law bought. So from a tire kicker, allegedly, it led to a deal. All right, and it put me on the board, and it put me up the board in a position where I suddenly got the 2-star clients, and I worked them the same, and then I got on the 3-star board. So don't prejudge the clients, don't prejudge your leads, don't prejudge the files. Keep your mouth shut. Don't be negative about it, okay? That's just my big thing for me. And I used to see it in sales. I would see we would bring in probably 20 new people a month that would come into our sales environment that I would do training with. Then I would monitor how they got on with their first few clients. I'd sit them down, tell me why you didn't sell to the client. And all you ever hear from salespeople and people in marketing on the telephone is the blame game. Well, they didn't buy because of this reason, they didn't buy because of that reason, they didn't buy because they weren't in a position to buy. A salesperson and a marketing person will always find an excuse and a reason why they didn't do their job. The successful people will look you in the eye and go, FTC'd. And you go, you FTC'd. FTC means fail to close. Sometimes put your hands up. Yeah, client was decent. Yeah, money wasn't quite what it should have been. Was there a deal there? Yeah, I FTC'd. I failed to close. And you will get more respect from your manager. You get more respect from people above. And you know what? Me, as your manager, would turn around and go, I admire the honesty. Let's fix why you didn't sell, and let's get you back out, and let's maybe give you another client. All right, as opposed to you sitting there moaning and screaming like a baby and blaming everyone else but yourself. For me, that's a big black mark. So again, that's an important commandment for me. You know, never ever prejudge. Treat every file the same and every lead the same. So right now we're going to take a break on this video. All right, because I don't want to bore people with long 1-hour videos and 2-hour videos and whatever else. We've covered a few commandments today. I'm going to cover more commandments in another video. I'd love feedback from you. I'd love you to subscribe on the button on the video screen. Tell me what's good about it. Tell me what you don't like about it. Tell me what you want to hear. Tell me if you're struggling. Tell me if you need help. These are all the things we're going to do in all of these kind of videos. Let's call this DMAX 20 Business Commandments so that people can find the video online. And I hope it's been beneficial. I hope it's been educational. I hope it helps some people. If it doesn't, well, screw you. I'm doing it anyway. And thank you very much for your time. Until next time.